All right, Bruins fans, we are 27 hours away from the NHL trade deadline. Don Sweeney has already made one huge move in acquiring Hampus Lindholm from the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to talk about that trade and give you the latest from practice here on Sunday as the Boston Bruins get ready to head to Montreal to take on the Canadiens on Monday night.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. This is a special bonus episode to bring you all the latest on the black and gold as we near the NHL's trade deadline. Going to talk about Hampus Lindholm and what could be next for the Boston Bruins here. But I just want to thank you so much, first of all, for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. The podcast is free and available on all platforms as well as on YouTube. A lot of you checked out the breaking news video featuring the Lindhom news, and I very much appreciate that. Quick reminder that tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be going live on the YouTube channel. That will be kind of tomorrow's episode, and you want to subscribe so that you do not miss a thing. Follow Locked NHL Bruins on Twitter and Instagram. Follow at ENC McLaren on Twitter and Instagram. Forgive the Blue Jays hat that I'm rocking today. Hope no Boston sports fans take offense to that. But I got this at the J Shop the other day while we were in Toronto, and I really do like it. Now, of course, the big news on Saturday is the acquisition of defenseman Hampus Lindholm, as well as defenseman Kodie Curran from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for defenseman Urho Vaakanainen, defenseman John Moore, a 2022 first-round draft pick, a 2023 second-round draft pick, and a 2024 second-round draft pick. The Anaheim Ducks retain 50% of Lindholm's salary for the balance of this season. He is a pending unrestricted free agent, but hopefully not. We'll get to that in a moment. Lindholm, he's 28. He was selected 6th overall by the Ducks back in 2012, the same draft in which the Bruins drafted Malcolm Subban, 24th overall, I believe. He's appeared in 582 NHL games, 57 goals, 165 assists, a very unflashy but solid defenseman, strong on the puck, just does all the little things well, and he will immediately slot in on the top four. I believe Bruce Cassidy saying this morning that he expects Lindholm to see time with both McAvoy and Carlo at times, with Grzelcyk, in there as well. That's the new top four: Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and then Forbort, Riley, Clifton will all vie for time on the bottom pairing, as well as potentially Jack Hashan, or if they secure the rights to another shot hand defenseman. Curran, he's 32 years old, an AHL guy. I would be surprised if he sees any time up with the Bruins. And then, of course, going the other way, John Moore. He's 31, appeared in 7 games for the Bruins this season. He was signed to a 5-year, $2.75 million deal. That just did not really pan out by any stretch of the imagination. And one of those extra second-round picks was thrown in as a kicker for the Ducks to take on Moore's contract. Lindholm, half of his contract was retained, so he's on the books for $2.602778 million for the balance of this season, and that could be set to rise dramatically, as word is the Bruins and Lindhom nearing an 8-year extension, which would pay him an average annual salary of $6.5 million. That would make him one of the Bruins' highest paid players, the second highest paid defenseman after McAvoy next season. He's going to be making $9.5 million. You have Bergeron, who's making $6.875. He's an unrestricted free agent, of course. And then next year you have Pastrnak still on that beauty $6.66 million deal. Marchand a few more years at $6.125, and Taylor Hall at an even $6 million. So Lindholm immediately will be paid as a core member of this team. And that's how the Bruins see him coming in here. Bruce Cassidy saying that Lindholm immediately makes the Bruins a better team today than they were Friday night in Winnipeg. So a huge deal for the Boston Bruins. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow, of course, as well as some other things that the Bruins might do. Before we get into news and notes from practice this morning and some analysis on this deal, a quick word about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. Comes in so many amazing, delicious flavors, and the puffs are a real treat. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy, not just a protein bar. It's really a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They're a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow. They're covered in 100% chocolate, and they're low calorie and high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these as a healthy alternative. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste amazing first, then figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every time. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 at 15% off at Built.com. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. Again, podcast free and available on all platforms as well as on YouTube. My take on this Hampus Lindholm trade is he was arguably the best defenseman available. 28 years old, in his prime. He perhaps has not played as well over the past couple years as he had previously, but he was also playing with a relatively inexperienced, although highly touted prospect in Jamie Drysdale. Being paired with McAvoy certainly will only raise his game, and the Bruins were able to get this done without having to give up one of their top prospects in Mason Lohrei or Fabian Lysell. If they had gone the Jacob Chychrun route, younger player, very nice contract, they would have had to give up a whole lot more. Now they're getting a player they desperately needed in Hampus Lindholm, or that position anyways, a top pair defenseman, for essentially a first, a second, and Vaakanainen, and then dumping Moore's contract for an additional second is a bonus as well, and will help them next season to alleviate their cap situation. So a nice piece of work for Don Sweeney there. The 8 years on this reported deal, perhaps a touch longer than I would have liked. That will take him up to, when he's 36. But the early years certainly, it's a very nice AAV for, next 4 or 5 years. Lindholm will not be in Montreal to take on the Canadiens tomorrow night, but he should be able to join the Bruins for their next game later this week at home against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which will be a huge game for sure. Other news from practice this morning, Marc McLaughlin was recalled on an emergency basis. That's because Patrice Bergeron remains out with that arm injury at risk of infection. He will not travel to Montreal. They're hoping he can be ready for Thursday against Tampa. And Jack Studnicka blocked a shot against Winnipeg. He was not able to practice. So it's possible that the recently signed Marc McLaughlin might make his NHL debut. He practiced on the fourth line with Nick Foligno and Curtis Lazar, with Thomas Nosek up on the top line in Bergeron and Studnicka's absence. But again, we'll touch on all of this tomorrow during the live show at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That is all the latest on the Boston Bruins. I would expect that Don Sweeney would still be pretty active here prior to the deadline. In my estimation, they still need a right-hand scorer. There's names from Vancouver coming out, perhaps Connor Garland, Brock Besser. I still like Phil Kessel. Maybe they still talk to Anaheim, Ricardo Raquel, Alex DeBrincat if we're getting nuts. The Bruins do have projected deadline cap space of $6.15 million. So still plenty of room to make a pretty significant trade, especially if Jake DeBrusk is going out with his $3.65 million AAV as well. So yeah, that's the latest on the Boston Bruins here on Sunday. Again, Marc McLaughlin recalled from Providence. He spent the last 4 seasons at Boston College, 40 goals, 36 assists in 130 games. He signed his entry-level deal just on March 15th. Bruce Cassidy here this morning saying he has some Noel Acciari in his game. So take that for what it's worth. Don Sweeney is set to address the media here on Sunday, so we'll get some more insight into potential Lindhom extension, what else he might be up to. I wouldn't expect he'll tip his hand too much, but Hampus Lindholm is a Boston Bruin. He will join the Bruins at some point this week, probably when they return from Montreal, get some practices in, and will likely make his Bruins debut on Thursday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Great piece of work here from Don Sweeney. You can argue about the impending extension, perhaps quibble about the payment they gave up. No first this year, no second for the next 2 years, but that's the price of doing business at the trade deadline. Tampa Bay gave up 2 firsts to get Brandon Hagel. And they still have some assets in the bank if they want to make another big trade. Second line center could still use an upgrade as well, in my opinion. So that's it. Nothing firm coming out now as to next targets, but like I said, there's names out there. Vancouver, Andrew Kopp remains a name. I wouldn't think they would add another defenseman, but you never know. It's always good to have, 7, 8 in the bank heading into the playoffs. And I guess they have that right now with this new top 4 in Lindhom, McAvoy, Grizzly, Carlo, and then you have Forbort, Riley, Clifton, Ashawn. Still a lack of depth on the right side, but one of those left-hand shots will likely move over there. Anyways, that's it for this bonus episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do. Oh, and here we go. The Boston Bruins have agreed to the extension with Lindholm at the reported $6.5 million AAV. So that is official now. Everything that I've talked about up to this point still stands. So Lindholm under contract for the next 8 seasons, beginning next year, at a cap hit of $6.5 million. So that makes this trade a lot more palatable to get that extension in. And good on Don Sweeney for getting him re-signed and making that relatively high price tag worth it. Again, tune into Locked On Bruins tomorrow, live show 3 p.m. Eastern, and do follow on Twitter at Locked NHL Bruins. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll see what Don Sweeney is up to as well. Take care, friends.